So let's just finish off our program. We're going to manage this, where is it gone? At the top, calculate choice. It's our last thing that we're going to do to get a working program, to do a calculator. Now, if you watched the last video, maybe you didn't, we were talking about passing arguments and using parameters, and that's what I'm going to be doing right here. Calculate choice requires a parameter. I'm going to choose C. Could choose anything I want. So that's the user's choice. Did they choose A, S, M, D or Q? Don't really care, but I'm going to pass whatever they did in and use it inside this function. And the way I'm going to use that is I'm just going to do a simple if, elif and else section. So pay attention to how this works. So if the user chose the add, so that would be an A. If they chose add, then what they need to do is just run the add function. That's all I need. Now, I've used the if once, I can't use the if again. I could do, but it would be rather bad programming. If I've got lots of selections, then I'm going to use the elif. So elif, the user chose S for subtraction, then, and we put a colon on the end, then we're going to run the subtract routine. And we're going to do the same for multiply and divide. So if C was equal to M for multiply, then we're going to run the multiply routine. And finally, now when I say finally, I'm still going to do an elif because the finally is from the menu, the A, the S, the M or the D. The Q is already taken care of in the main program. So if I just scroll down, the Q is already taken care of in the main program. But people might type in B, Z, P, something that we're not catering for. So in that case, I will use an else clause to capture that. So at the moment, I'm still using elif. C is equal to D, then we need to divide, and now the else clause. Else, well, if they've chosen anything else, all we want to do is print a message on the screen saying that it was an incorrect selection. Incorrect selection. Please choose from the menu. So that's going to take care of any key that isn't A, S, M, D or Q. Strangely, it's also going to work for capital A, capital S, capital M, capital D, and we'll have a look at that when we run. But that should really be Program Calculator version 1. It's finished, it works, it's good, it's going to work, but it's not brilliant. We can improve it. So let's run it and test it out. So I want to add, calculator choice takes exactly one argument, 0 given. If you've watched my video, you will know that we needed to pass choice as an argument here because calculate choice has a single parameter there. So let's try that again. In other words, it just didn't know what A was. There we go. Please enter a number. 3 and 4 should give me 7 because it's adding. Brilliant. I've got my calculator. Let's try some subtraction. S. Please enter a number. 5 and 4 should give me 1. Okay, let's do some multiplication. So choose M for multiply. Please enter a number. 2 and 3 should give me 6. Perfect. And finally divide. Now divide's a bit awkward. We'll look at it twice. So I'm going to choose divide. I'm going to enter in 9 and 2, which should give me 4.5, but it only gives me 4. Looks like it's an error, but it isn't. This goes back to the very first term where we were looking at whole numbers, integers, and decimal numbers, which we call floats. And really, if I want to get a decimal or a floating point answer, I've got to give it 2 floating point numbers. So if I do that one again, D, and this time do 9.0, which is a decimal, and 2.0, which is a decimal, then it will give me 4.5, a decimal answer. So we have to be careful with division, always. There may be a way in my program that I can ask or convert it automatically, so it doesn't really matter. Now, I'm not going to quit. What I am going to do is test what happens if I type in a B, which isn't a menu selection, and it just gives me incorrect selection, please choose from the menu, exactly as I required. I'm also going to type in capital A. So I'm going to try addition, but I've typed in capital A, and again it doesn't recognise that choice. And it would be the same for all of them. Capital M for multiply, can't do. So let's quit out of the program by pressing quit. Goodbye. We can now look at ways of improving our input, improving our output, although, to be fair, we have a working program. So if this was a piece of coursework, then you've probably achieved, let's say, 80% of what would be expected to be achieved, but you haven't taken into consideration any sort of defensive design. In other words, you make sure that you know what the user is inputting at all times and taking action if they put the wrong things in. So what I would like to do here is if they typed in a capital A or capital M, I'd still like them to be able to add or multiply. So we'll take a look at things like that in the next videos.